Hey everybody, I'm Pat Monahan, and this is the Patcast. My guest this week got into the music business at the ripe old age of 5. Yeah, that's right, you heard that right. 5 years old. And maybe it was inevitable, because his father wrote jingles for a living, his mother was a singer, and there was music everywhere in that house of theirs for this young guy. His father was writing these jingles, and he ended up singing on them when he was a kid. And since then, it's been this crazy success story. His career got started with a little help from Lionel Richie. I'm not sure if you ever heard of him, but he's a big, awesome guy, star. Anyway, he sang background vocals on some of the biggest pop records of all time. He is the first solo artist to have his first 7 singles hit the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. His debut album in 1987 was on the charts for a year and a half. A song he wrote or co-wrote has topped the charts in 4 different decades. This guy is kind of unstoppable, and he's very funny. He's a lovely guy. I'm talking about Richard Marx. Chances are you already know a little bit about Richard Marx on some level. Many of his songs were massive hits. Even if you aren't familiar with him, it's almost impossible that you haven't at least heard Endless Summer Nights, Now and Forever, or Right Here Waiting at some point in your life. And that's not to mention the songs that he's done for or with other musicians. Those credits include Kenny Rogers, Luther Vandross, Barbra Streisand, 98 Degrees, NSYNC, Natalie Cole, Josh Groban. I like to call him Groban, even though I know people call him Groban, because it's kind of like when Tony Dorsett called himself Tony Dorsett. I just don't want to go with it, so I'm going with Groban. Michael Bolton, Kenny Loggins, Sister Hazel, Keith Urban, Vertical Horizon. That's an abbreviated list of the people that he's worked with, and the list goes on and on. Anyway, I met Richard Marx recently at a Christmas event in Seattle with the band Heart. They asked me to sing a couple Christmas songs, and when I got to the show for rehearsal, my dressing room was right in between Sammy Hagar's and Richard Marx, and when I met both of those guys, it was a great hang. I love both of them. I'll be doing something fun with Sammy in May, and anyway, and a bunch of stuff with Richard as well. I was in LA working on some new songs a few weeks back, and I mentioned to Richard that I was in town. He invited me over for drinks. He paid for the drinks, and I paid for Pergo to come with the microphones. And he sat there and set them up. And at midnight on a random Monday night in L.A., we sat down and had this conversation. We really got into it on this one. Richard takes us through his whole career in this interview, and it has been a continuous fascinating career. So here it is, folks. Richard Marx on the Patcast.
What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking, looking at you. You got to get it while the getting is good. Laugh when you can, cry when you should. You got to give it till the giving is gone. Do what you can, then you move on. What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking, looking at you.
What do you think, Pergo? Are we ready?
I'm rolling. And we're rolling.
All right. This is a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a long time.
You're going to be profoundly disappointed.
I've heard from a lot of people that you are one of the funniest, but also crude, like dirty humor kind of guy. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I'm here with Richard Marx from KISS.
Fuck yeah.
Richard Marx, you've had more hits than the Beatles, and
True.
You've made more money than Yeezus. But tell me about Michael Bolton really quick. I got to hear this story.
I think we should start with this. So I want to preface this by saying that we're coming to you from my rental house in Los Angeles. And Pat walked in and within about 10 minutes said, "Hey, can I use your bathroom? Because I need to take a huge dump."
Yeah, but it was a joke.
Yeah.
I didn't really do that.
Okay, I
I
know
just
you
thought
did.
it was a good icebreaker.
It was. It endeared you to me.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea.
You're like, oh,
But
he's
it
sweet.
It is, yeah. But it did make me think of this story, which I've never told anybody other than my closest friends. And look, I've had a little bit of vodka, so all bets are off.
Yeah.
So Michael Bolton and I have been friends for 20 years, something like that.
And there are really scary and really great stories about Michael.
I'm sure there's
and you're
great.
going to tell us one that's
I'm going to tell you
a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. So about 10 years ago, he reached out to me and he said, now we were not like really friends. We just knew each other. We were always very kind to each other and we'd run into each other, but we didn't hang out really. And then about 10 or 11 years ago, he called me and said, I've always respected you. I'd love to write and produce a couple of tracks for my new record with you, which I thought was really cool because in our heyday, he and I never felt competitive with him, but we were kind of competing for slots on the chart at the same time. So I thought it was really kind of cool that he reached out to me that way. And I've always, the guys, look, I know that they're...
amazing voice, man.
He's got an amazing voice. Anybody, I can understand, like whether it's me, you, Michael Bolton, whoever, people that are not fans of ours, that's fine. But anybody that says Michael Bolton can't sing is a fucking moron.
My favorite song that he ever sang was "When a Man Loves a Man."
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. That was the B-side was "Don't Let Your Sun Go Down on Me," right? Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so
Pretty sure.
I'm listening. I'm with you.
So Michael and I we cut a couple of tracks together, and we do most of the work at my studio in Chicago that I built attached to my house in a suburb of Chicago. So Michael would come in for a couple of days, we'd work together, and then he'd go off and do his thing and tour and finish his record, and then he'd come back every couple of weeks. Michael he's a vegetarian, and he has what turns out to be a rather sensitive stomach.
What turns out to be
a sensitive stomach. So this one
You're
particular
not allowed
night,
to have a sensitive stomach if you live in the Chicago area.
well, I mean, you could, and I actually, not to be like that guy, but like this particular evening, we had a chef. We had this woman that was cooking for us.
Oh, you're that guy.
I was that guy for a little while. We had a chef that would come like a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And he happened to come on one night that she was cooking. So we made sure that he had something vegetarian. But I like spicy food. I like a kick. I'm not afraid. And I do not have a sensitive stomach, turns out. Michael, he likes a flavorful meal, but he's a little sensitive. His stomach is sensitive. So we have this pretty spicy meal. And then we sort of retire to my studio, and we're working on the song that we've written. And Michael excuses himself to go to the studio bathroom, which is around the corner around the corner from the lounge. And this is late at night now. This is like 1, 2 in the morning.
Sure, of course.
And I'm working on a keyboard part, and my studio line rings, and it's Michael's assistant looking for him. And I said, yeah, he went to the bathroom, but it's been a while. So I yell, Michael! And I hear, I go, it's Ronnie's on the phone. He's like, call her back. So I go, I don't know. He's been in there for a long time. He'll call you back. So I hang up, and another couple minutes go by, maybe 5 minutes, and I hear the door open, and Michael peers around the corner, and he looks at me with a very sheepish look on his face. And I said, dude, are you okay? And he went, hey, Ricardo, do you have a maid? And I went, yeah. And he said, because I think she's about to quit. And I started laughing, and I said, well, what, dude, do you need like a plunger? Or he goes, dude, fuck the plunger. You need a construction crew in here. You need a demolition crew. And we're laughing, and I'm assuming, of course, he's exaggerating, of course, because we're laughing about it. And he's like, that cook of yours, she really fucked my stomach up with all the spices. And so we're laughing, and then we work for a couple more hours, and he leaves. And I go to sleep, 4 a.m. I sleep in. Next day I come down and I want to do some stuff on the track. I'm by myself and I got to pee. So I go to my studio bathroom and I walk in, and I swear to fucking God, I've never seen anything like this in my entire life.
Wow.
This is something that paramedics would blush at. Okay. I've never seen carnage like this. And so I call him and he goes, hello? And I said, dude, what the fuck happened in my bathroom? And he goes, I told you. And I said, I had no idea that you were that serious about this.
Yeah, I had no idea you were that gifted.
So the addendum is two things. One, when he came back a couple weeks later, we arranged to, eventually he had to use the bathroom and we had a laugh about it. So when he went into the bathroom for the first time since the event, and I'm doing air quotes, we had put police crime scene tape.
Caution tape.
Yeah. Over the toilet.
Man, that guy.
And addendum number 2 is that from that point on, even my own kids refer to taking a dump as a Bolton.
Oh, shit.
Dad, I just had a Bolton.
That's amazing.
So there you go.
Well,
long story, but good, right?
It's really incredible.
That's not a story anybody else is going to tell you about Michael Bolton.
There's a lot of incredible stuff in your history. And, the first thing that you do when you're about to talk to a guy like Richard Marx is you look on the internet, and most of them are lies. But there's a lot of fun stuff that I like to ask you about.
Oh, okay.
First of all, you're from the Chicago area.
Yeah.
And your parents were both musicians. And your dad, he wrote jingles, right?
Yes, you're so well researched.
And so, and your mom was a musician too, right? Or a singer?
Sang.
A singer. And so did they meet doing jingles? Is that?
They met, he was her vocal coach.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so he's real musical, right?
He was, yeah.
He was. And so are both your parents have passed at this point?
No, just my dad.
Okay. And so you live in a really musical household, I would assume.
Crazy musical.
Like listening and playing. And
everything.
So when was it like, and do you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
No siblings. Only
Which is
child.
why I was never in a band.
And also why you're very difficult to be around.
True.
So here you are, the only kid, so you're so loved by these two talented people. Did your dad insist that you learn how to play every instrument and sing and do everything else? No. Or was it just something that you gravitated towards and it was easy?
It was a little bit of, it wasn't so much that they pushed me into it at all. They did push me into piano lessons when I was about 5 because my dad thought there's no way this kid is not going to have some kind of a musical, yen. And so I want him to have the goods. I want him to have the tools.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I didn't take to it.
Right.
But I sang from the time I was like 5. And I sang well enough in tune that my dad was, he wrote the music for TV and radio commercials and became arguably the most successful jingle writer and producer in the country for 20 years or something.
That's amazing.
That. And my mom sang on a bunch of those commercials.
Were there other talented people that started from working with your dad?
Not people that you would know necessarily, but certainly people that have gone on to have successful musical careers.
Great.
Yeah. And actually back in the day, I remember like he had Donny Hathaway used to sing on jingles for my dad.
Man. I was just talking about Donny Hathaway today.
Yeah, he's probably maybe my favorite singer of all time.
Yeah, he should be. He's incredible.
Yeah. Maurice White, he was a hero of mine and still is. Maurice White from Earth, Wind and Fire, and they were contemporaries. And when my dad passed away, I had a really nice phone call from Maurice saying, your dad was one of the most talented people I ever met. And,
it's cool.
But so when I was like 5 or 6 years old, one of the things that was a cash cow for my dad's business were kid-oriented commercials like candy bars, breakfast cereals, stuff like that. And
So
one day,
you fit in, right?
I did, but it wasn't even my dad that suggested it. It was this other guy that said, every time I hear Richard singing around the house, singing Monkey songs or Beatles songs, he sings in tune. You should have him, screw nepotism, have him, he's your kid.
Yeah, right.
So they brought me in and they tried me out on some commercial, and it was like the easiest thing I ever did, and I sang in tune, and it was like, great, we'll use my son.
So you did a bunch of them.
I did a ton of them, and so I kind of grew up in the recording studio. So I learned about mic technique and taking one earphone off when you're doubling and all that stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it was really cool growing up, not only in a household where my dad was constantly educating himself and playing the music of the day, So it was my dad that played me The Stranger by Billy Joel. It was my dad that played me Hotel California by the Eagles.
It's cool.
But I was also hearing the music he was composing and
That
creating.
sounds a little bit young for your dad. Like, how old would your father be if he was alive?
Good question. He'd be 90 this year.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And he played you Billy Joel songs?
Yeah.
That's insane.
He was 40 when I was born, but he was always really
Oh,
hip.
that's cool.
You know, he started out as a jazz pianist, and then
Who was his favorite jazz pianist?
his favorite jazz pianist was probably Oscar Peterson.
Really?
Yeah.
More than Bill Evans.
Yeah, and he loved Bill Evans, but Oscar was, I think, his favorite.
Man, my dad just listened to jazz. He drove me nuts until it was the only thing I liked. But sorry. So here's where the music just gets weird to me, is that you started in your dad's jingle studio,
Right.
but you moved to LA to start your music career.
Yeah.
Why didn't you feel like Chicago was a possibility for you to do it there? What made you come here? Something about, like, it says something about Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. Well, my dad, I think, really did want me to carry on the family business, but more so, he wanted me to find my own path.
Yeah.
And so I was at my senior year of high school. I was planning to go to Northwestern and study music and just sort of bide my time and try and figure out what to do with. I was already writing songs and had demoed a few songs. And
Had you written anything that people would know?
no,
By
not
that
yet,
time?
not yet. But I'd written 4 or 5 songs, my first 4 or 5 songs, and demoed them and produced them myself in a way that they were actually kind of like, for your first 4 or 5 songs, maybe the songs themselves weren't that great, but I fooled you into thinking that they sounded good, because I was already learning some producing chops and stuff like that. So just as I'm about to graduate from high school, a friend of mine who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew Lionel Richie gave Lionel Richie it was a cassette tape
Cool.
with my phone number written in pen on the back. And I get my phone rings one night, and it's Lionel Richie.
Wow.
And I think somebody's punking me.
I think that guy's
Which
one
is
of the
weird
sweetest humans
It
alive.
was 20 years before punked, so I don't know why I was thinking I was being punked, because there was no
Right.
such thing. Yeah, he is. He is the most gracious, sweet guy.
So he's on the phone and he's like, "Hey, Richard."
He said, "Man, I get tapes left and right. I don't even listen to most of them, but something made me listen to this, and man, I really think you're talented. And how old are you?" And I said, "I'm 18." And he said, "Well, what's your plan?" I said, "Well, I was gonna go to Northwestern and study music." He goes, "Fuck that. You should come to LA.
Yeah.
You know what you want to do. If this is your first 4 or 5 songs, you just need to write songs and get
Right.
into it."
He's
But he
right.
said, "You can't do it in Chicago. You got to do it here."
Well, he's from,
from
a
Alabama.
small town in Tennessee, isn't he?
Well, he grew up in Tuskegee, Alabama.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. He actually lived in Joliet, Illinois for a while.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, he never made me any promises. He just encouraged me.
Sure.
And at the time, next to Michael Jackson, Lionel might have been the biggest guy in music. So to have a guy like that
Yeah.
giving you a thumbs up.
That's a big deal.
Even my parents were like, "Fuck Northwestern." I think they actually said that to me. "Fuck Northwestern.
Yeah.
Go to LA." So I moved out to LA when I was 18, and Lionel invited me to come by the studio. There was no invitation to work or do anything. He was just being encouraging.
Right.
But he said, "Hey, I'm doing my first solo record. Come on by the studio, just watch." So I'm there the first day, and they're doing background vocals on this song called "You Are." You are the sun, you
Amazing.
are the rain, right? And I overhear somebody say that they've been doing these background vocals on this song for 2 days.
Weird.
And I'm going,
That sounds nuts.
that's crazy. If you're not getting the background vocals on a track in a couple hours, something's really radically wrong.
right.
But they're trying to work on, they can't find the right blend, they can't find the right sound, blah, blah, blah. Lionel's out there with these other couple of singers. And all of a sudden, Lionel looks in the control room at me, and he points to me, and he goes, "Come here." So I'm shaking. I go out, and he goes, Did you hear what part I was singing? I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You sing my part. And you guys sing this and sing that." So he goes in the control room, and me and these other 2 singers, the chorus comes, we sing it, and he hits the talkback. He goes, "That's the sound."
Oh, that's amazing.
And I was hired. So I did a bunch of background vocals on this first solo record.
Really?
And I couldn't fucking believe it. I was
That's
just
incredible,
yeah.
man.
And then he recommended me as a background singer to Kenny Rogers.
Wow.
And some other people. And so I started to get work as a background singer.
You know that he just stopped in to see what his
Condition was in.
his condition was in.
Kenny did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a reference.
I wish you would have sung on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. That would have really
I
impressed
would be
you.
impressed with you. But, you know, instead you have the life that you have, and we are... It's fine.
And if I had sung on Just Dropped In, I would have been 4 years old. Which is...
And so that's kind of amazing, man. So you go from like working on Kenny Rogers' record to being an artist, or do you do some more background stuff? I mean,
I know I sang on a bunch of people's records.
Really?
Madonna, Julio Iglesias,
and Julio Iglesias.
Chicago 17.
Wow.
I
So
worked
what
a
about
bit.
Luther?
Luther I didn't meet until years later after I had made some records and stuff.
Really? How about Billy Joel?
Billy Joel I met during my first record. We did this Grammy event together, and he came up to me at this party. Billy freaking Joel came up to me at this party. He goes, "Man, I love that. I love your record. I love Don't Mean Nothing, and I love this
cool.
song." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm really busy right now. I really can't talk to you. If you can please
You didn't
excuse
say
me."
that, did you? That would have been incredible.
No, my head spun around. Are you kidding? It was
Right.
Billy Joel. And we did work together. I sang on one of his records, and he came and played piano on one of my records.
Wow, dude. That's
Yeah.
cool, man. You got cool friends.
I do. Look at you. You're sitting in my
You
house.
said your best friend is Matt from Vertical Horizon.
He's my best friend, yeah.
That's so weird that he's your best friend. How'd you meet him?
Craigslist.
Yeah, that's great. You
Actually,
know,
I should clarify. I have
you
two.
actually meet a lot of people on Twitter, don't you?
I do. I
guess
have a
that's
really
what I was
weird
wondering.
Twitter
Is like,
thing.
did you meet Matt from Twitter?
I did not meet Matt from Twitter. I also want to say I have two best friends. Matt has been my best friend for like 10 years, but my lifelong best friend is Fee Waybill from the Tubes.
Oh wow, are you serious?
I mean, yeah, he's like
that's
the
a
big,
Chicago band, right?
No,
Oh.
you're so poorly researched.
I don't
You
know.
were doing so well.
What do I know about
San
the
Francisco.
Tubes?
San Francisco. The Tubes are from San
Oh,
Francisco.
they are.
Sure.
I should know that.
Sophie and I.
We're gonna edit some of this.
Yeah.
Probably
No, don't edit.
most of everything that you say.
Everything I corrected you on.
Yeah, just things that you say.
Oh.
We'll edit.
Okay.
And then we'll keep me in. Go
Cool.
ahead.
Fee and I have been friends for 30 years.
Yeah.
And he's like the big brother that I never had. And Matt is like the little brother that I never
Yeah,
had.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So you have 3 kids, and one of them is in a metal band. So he took after you in your like. What's going on with that?
We're not staying on any topic for more than 2
it's crazy
sentences.
to me. Like you have kind of such an interesting.
Weren't we just talking
life
about
that
Kenny Rogers just
we
dropped
don't-
in?
If we don't talk about all of these things quickly, we won't be able to cover all of these.
Because you got to get to commercial break.
No,
Yeah.
it's just that you have a lot of life here.
I do. I'm an old man.
And one of the things that I can relate to a lot is what happened to you with Lionel was similar to what happened with me when I was in Erie, PA. Cher played.
I found someone.
Wow, you're really good at that.
Yeah,
That's terrible that you're really good at that. You should be ashamed of that.
I should. There's
Are
plenty
you
more.
really good at doing
there's plenty
covers?
more.
Can you do people's voices?
Only a couple. I can do Gordon Lightfoot.
That's a good one.
I can do Kenny Loggins.
That's a great one, man. Kenny's sweet.
I can do a little Cher.
The Cher was great.
Thank you.
So when I was doing a cover band in Pennsylvania, and Cher played at the arena there, and then her band came to just the bar that I was playing in, and her guitar player, his name was Shelley, David Shelley, and he saw me and he was like, "Here's my phone number. You should come to LA. You're gonna be fine." And then I never got to see him again. And
Right.
I called him like 9 times.
And he just blew you
He was
off.
like, "Oh, I'm on the road." No, he was always really nice, but we just never connected.
So
But
he was not your
he got me
pathway.
there. Just like
What
Lionel,
was your pathway? How did you?
for me, I moved to LA and I met one of the guys from a band called the Apostles,
Right.
and 3 of the Train guys were in the band The Apostles, and then we got a different drummer, and I was the singer of the band, and we moved to San Francisco to, I think that they burned some bridges and lost some faith in publishing companies and record companies, and so it would have been a difficult thing to start there. But so LA wasn't going to be where it was at for us. It would have had to be San Francisco, which is really a blessing because it's an amazing city. And
It is an amazing
the Tubes
city.
are from there. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. I thought that they were from Chicago.
No. You're just poorly researched.
So what do you think, not to turn it around on you, but I'm curious. You're in LA, things are not going the way you want. The band moves to San Francisco.
Yeah.
What happens within the city of San Francisco that propels the band to stardom?
It was a time when grunge was making a transition into singer-songwriter.
Right.
So actually, what year would that have been? Like 93.
Right.
When did your first record debut?
87.
In 87. So I guess, you outlived all of the grunge. Like you were able to survive it
I was
because
anti-grunge.
well, you weren't. But what it was grunge cleared a pathway of any band, any guy that ever had hairspray in his hair ever.
Right.
It ended dramatically and
Right.
quickly. And you were safe because you were a singer-songwriter. So
Plus, I didn't use hairspray. This is
No.
all natural. This is just...
Au contraire, I saw a picture. There's no way. There's no hairspray.
There was no
in it.
hairspray.
Seriously?
It was just that thick.
Man, you're good.
Thank you.
So not
I
only
wouldn't-
do you sing
why would
like
I lie?
Cher,
Why would I lie to you now?
why would you lie
I
to
would
me?
cop to it now and be like, dude, I was like contributing to the destruction of the ozone layer. No hairspray.
Well, I think that what you've been able to accomplish is kind of amazing. Like
With
you've
my
had
hairstyles, you mean?
a lot of hit songs. How many top 10 songs have you had in your career?
As a writer or as an artist?
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know. I think something
So as
like
a writer, what are some of the songs that you've written that people wouldn't know about that weren't on Richard Marx albums?
This I Promise You for In Sync.
Wow.
I wrote and produced that.
That's amazing.
Dance with My Father, Luther.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you write that with Luther?
Yeah.
Man, that guy.
Yeah. We could talk about him all night. We could talk about him all night.
I think he's a lovely guy, man. I don't know him, but he just seems like a guy who wasn't able to 100% be himself a little bit. It's
very
And I
accurate.
think that's
Very accurate.
Devastating.
Yeah.
But anyway,
He and I became really close friends, and he's one of those people that, very similar to my dad. My dad and I were best friends too. And those people that you have in your life, whether they're family members or if you're super close to them or whatever, people that are really large personalities.
yeah.
Not just physically, but just like really just big hearts and big, huge compassion and all that stuff. They leave such a massive space when they leave.
Man, that's a perfect way to put it.
I mean,
And Luther was one of those guys.
Luther was one of those guys. And I like when I think about him, I mean, he's been gone. Wow. I think he passed in 2005 because Dance with My Father was 2004 and he died within a year of that. So coming up on 10 years, next year will be 10 years. And I talk about him a lot. I reference him a lot and I miss him terribly. Like he was a really, really good friend to me. So when I talk about him, or when I think about him, I get really bummed out. Even now,
Yeah.
like he left a
is
huge
still
hole
there.
in my heart. Yeah,
That sucks.
yeah. But anyway,
Oh, I see. So now you're doing me like I'm moving on, like you just did the.
no,
anyway.
we had our Barbara Walters moment, and
Well,
so let me really quick just to segue.
So, yeah.
Luther gets this house in Greenwich, Connecticut. And I'm in New York doing some TV thing or whatever. And he says, Richard, you got to come over to my house in Greenwich because it is fabulous like you've never seen fabulous. So I get a car to take me out to his house to have dinner. And we have this really lovely dinner with a couple of his friends. But I get there early so he and I can hang and catch up. And he's showing me around his house, his mansion. And we go into the living room. And I look at the walls. And they're cream-colored walls. And I go up to them because it looks like fabric. And I go and I looked at him and I said, "Are these?" And he goes, "Cashmere." Now, if you're in somebody's house and they tell you that the walls are cashmere, what are you going to do?
You're going to rub up against
You're
them
going to
with
touch
your
the
face.
walls. So he says cashmere, and I immediately start to, and he goes, Richard Marx, don't you touch my motherfucking cashmere walls with your nasty ass Chicago hands.
He got all that out before you could even get your fingers
And I
to
said,
it.
you know what, dude? I'm going to bring my kids over because my kids were little. I said, and I'm going to feed them M&Ms in the car on the way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just set them loose.
Man, that would have been... Well, that's too bad that he passed away and he left such a big void.
He was 52, I think, and it was, look, I hate the way he passed because, there were a lot of, it was just horrible. But I also really hate the fact that there was so much music left in this guy.
Right.
And that I got to write with him, several times. And I actually mourn the music that we didn't write together that was coming up, and all the songs that he would have sung. And because that guy he could sing the menu to a Chinese takeout place and it was.
Yeah. He was
awesome.
really, really special. Yeah. What other artists did you write songs for?
Oh my God. Tons. A lot of country artists.
And so was this
Keith Urban and I have had a lot of success together. We've written a couple of number ones.
During and after all of your own?
Yeah. My first side project. Well, wait, I take that back. My first number one song was as a writer for Kenny Rogers when I was 19. I wrote this song called Crazy that was a number one country song with him. Although he will be the first to tell you that he didn't exactly, it wasn't really a co-write, if you know what I mean.
Sure. But sometimes having a guy around makes a difference.
Yeah. So I had a couple of cuts by Kenny and a couple of hits as a writer, and then I got my record deal. And within a year of my first record and tour, I got asked to produce this all-girl heavy metal band called Vixen. And I wrote their one and only hit called Edge of a Broken Heart with Fee Waybill, and I produced it. And then I did I wrote and produced a hit for Poco a couple of years after that. And, and so I was always sort of like, whenever I'd have time in between tours or whatever, I would always want to produce and write other people stuff.
I mean, you could have made a career of just writing songs for people.
Well, that's really what I've done the last dozen years. I mean, I really haven't. I mean, I've had I've put out a couple of records, but I haven't really chased the artist thing like I ever did before.
And so what do you think about the artist thing right now and how it would be for you and how you think it is for other artists, including your son? Like, what do you think of when you were selling records and they were real records and that record reflected probably quite a lot of money?
Yeah.
And then you sold many millions of those. And so you were able to probably exist without working much just after that first debut album. And then you continue to be successful. And now if you put yourself in your kids' shoes, it's just not going to be anything like that.
No.
And
it's heartbreaking.
Do you love and hate it? Do you dislike it and that's the end of it? Or do you think, hey man, you got to do what you got to do? Because as active as you are on the internet, it seems like, fuck it, it's cool. I got to do what I got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. It's, I mean, not to be flip about it, but it really is sort of the way, it's the way the mop flops.
Right.
What I love for our industry, not just for our sake, but particularly for the sake of my sons who are coming up, what I love
Are they
it to
all
be,
musical? Because we're just talking about one.
3 sons, not one fucking scientist.
Really?
Not one fucking lawyer.
Yeah.
No, they're
Man,
all.
that's what you want.
They're
is
all
artists.
terribly
They're all big
talented.
hearts.
They're terribly talented singers and songwriters and musicians, and they're really passionate about it. So it's extra heartbreaking because, I see the landscape and I know how hard it's going to be for them, even if they have some success.
Yeah.
For that to be a lucrative thing for them is going to be a tough. I mean, you know this too, Pat.
They have to understand that if they're excited about making a lot of money, they need to go do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same thing for you and the same thing for me. If you got
I'm still making a shitload of money. I don't know
if
about
you would have gotten into this for money, you probably wouldn't have made any.
No, you can't do it for money.
I mean, your kids would be fine.
I heard somebody, I don't remember who it was, but I heard somebody when I was young say, it was an artist, and I wish I remembered who it was, but they said, you can't do it for the money, you can't do it for the bling, although this was probably before there was even the word bling. But they said you have to do it because if you don't do it, you feel like you're going to die. And that's how I felt. It was like, I've got to do this. This is everything that I'm about. There was never any question from the time I was 5 or 6 years old but the good news was that I never got hung up. I don't know about you. I'm curious to know what your trajectory was, but when I was really young, it really wasn't about ever becoming a rock star. It wasn't about becoming famous so much. It was that by the time I started writing songs, I just had this tunnel vision about I wanted to sustain the rest of my life making music. Being on the team, even to this day, I'm very grateful for the 9 or 10 years, whatever I had of, hit records and tours and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I started to see that shift, I didn't cry about it or anything like that. I went, okay, it's everybody else's turn now. I had my turn. It's not my turn anymore. But I still had a ton of music that I wanted to make. So I jumped headfirst into writing and producing other people, and I've been really lucky to be successful doing that. But it was all about, even to this day, where I say, I don't have to be in the starting lineup, just I can't let them take my jersey.
Right.
You have to sort of stay in it enough that you're still on the team.
Yeah, you just need to take a couple snaps.
Yeah, I just want to a couple of at-bats.
Yeah.
Because if you give me a couple of at-bats, I'm going to connect, historically speaking. With my kids, the opportunities and the avenues that were available to me like we covered it, starting out as a background singer, there's no such thing anymore. That doesn't exist.
No, they're just people on the way up, and they're going to sing some backgrounds.
I produced people's demos in 1982, 83, when I was living here in LA, 18 or 19. I would produce people's demos for $50 so that I didn't have to go work at a restaurant.
When you finally got on the radio, and we will edit this part for sure. I'm just interested for my own personal sake. Did you just rifle through groupies in a way that was like unhealthy and could have ended very, very badly?
Rifle through groupies?
Yeah, you know how like you're rifling through a drawer to find keys?
Yeah.
Like that kind of rifling through.
But through panties
Maybe.
that are on women?
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was already
really
in a committed relationship.
Oh. Yeah,
I became involved with the woman who became my wife when I was really young. So it was everywhere.
Do you think of that as the best thing that could have happened to you, or?
Oh, I'd be dead.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you would have
I would have rifled to death.
Right.
I would be
believe
dead.
that just looking at you.
Yeah.
I'm afraid you're going to rifle through me in Pergo. So, you and I have a lot in common with that, because I met a girl at 19 that kept me not playing around for a long time, which was really good for me because I had to figure out how to be successful, and I wasn't going to be able to do that unless I had a couple of different rules. I needed those rules. I didn't have many as a kid coming up because I was the last of 7 kids. My parents wouldn't be like, you need to do this homework, and they would be like, just don't die.
Yeah.
That was the only rule. And so,
but in high school, for example, did you sing in high school?
Yeah.
So you were already the guy that sang.
Yeah.
You were the guy with the voice.
Yep.
In high school. So was I. It got me no pussy.
Really?
It got me nowhere.
Oh.
Apparently you had a different experience.
Well, I don't want to brag.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about it.
So I was not, I was thinking, wait a minute, I can sing, and it's like, this is not helping my game whatsoever.
What do you think your game is like? If you were to say,
well, now?
Here's how a girl,
Now I have game.
You do?
Yeah.
The confidence level in you, I can see it right in your face.
Can you?
It's skyrocketing.
Really? Thank you.
Plus, I was just talking to a guy the other day, and a very attractive guy about 32, and I was like, it must be difficult to just keep your clothes on at this point. And he was like, it's a headache because the age span that I'm allotted is so vast. He's like 32. So
Fuck that guy.
19. What did you say?
I said, fuck that guy. Fucking hate that guy.
What are you talking
I'm
about,
50.
man? So
I'm
what?
50.
I think your age span is just as big.
Okay.
It's just different. It doesn't start at 19, probably.
No,
it
that
might
would be-
start at
that'd be weird.
29, 27.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then you get to go to, I mean, if you really want to go the distance, go to 70 Jackson 5. You know what I'm saying?
We're talking Raquel Welch.
I mean,
kind of thing?
I have seen some 70-year-olds that are like, you know what? I get that.
Yeah.
I get that, and I'm going to buy her a drink.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I don't.
Then of course you don't.
I'm married happily with
for you.
anyway. So, but I can
As
see
was
it in your
I.
face. I can see it that you went from being a very devoted husband, father, to now you're a single guy. You live in L.A., and I would fear you. I would, if I saw you come into a bar as,
Really?
as a guy, I'd be like, I'm dead.
Really?
That guy he knows how to do this.
You're just fucking with me right now.
Nope, I'm Pergo. When you look at Richard Marx, are you like, I can't go out drinking with that guy because
If he came into a bar, I'd be like, oh shit, that's Richard Marx. I gotta find another bar.
no, but I'm not kidding right now. There's like you can see the confidence in a guy, and here's what I think the confidence is. You reach a certain age where you're okay with no, and when you're younger, it's devastating.
Yeah.
No is like, oh my God, no means I'm terrible and I don't know. And when you're 50 and you already did this, no means maybe.
I think that's
Right?
that's the most accurate thing you've said all night.
Well, that sucks.
No,
Okay,
no,
cool.
you've said some seriously fucking accurate shit, but that surpasses the other.
Hey, speaking of accurate, I'm gonna die if we don't do a Richard Marx song right now.
Well,
Is there a chance?
sure, of course.
Man, anything you want, but it'd be great if it was Endless Summer Nights. But anything you
Of
want.
all the songs, so random.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
Do you want to go get another drink and we can put everything on pause and maybe watch a movie?
Yes.
Great.
Let's watch Sophie's Choice.
No. That was the movie that ruined my life.
Let's watch a little Schindler's List just to get in the mood.
I never watched it because of Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
And these are not jokes.
So we'll
I don't
we'll
joke about
watch
that.
Step Brothers, and then we'll do Endless Summer Night.
I love that movie. I'll
Okay,
watch
cool.
Step Brothers.
Done.
Get yourself a drink.
Fine.
Do whatever you need to do to play
I
guitar.
just need to walk over 8 feet over to grab my guitar.
All right. Awesome. Well, I'm going to study up on your lyrics for a
that.
second so I don't ruin it.
By the way, one of my favorite moments was when you were on live at Daryl's, the thing at
Oh,
Daryl's
Live
house.
at Daryl's. Yeah, that
And-
guy's awesome,
and
man.
he said
Have
he'd
you
take-
done Live at Daryl's?
No, he doesn't like me.
Oh, dude,
doesn't like
let
me.
me make a phone call.
Make a phone call. And he said, yeah, you take the second verse. I think it was Wait For Me or...
Oh yeah.
And so, of course, the second verse comes and Daryl
Wait
just keeps
for
singing.
me.
And Pat's like, he's like ready to sing. And Daryl just keeps singing. And then he finally figures out, he's like, oh, wait, you were supposed to do that. And
yeah.
Pat's like, does his impression of Daryl. He's like, I'm Daryl Hall. I wrote it, I'll sing it. I'm Daryl Hall, bitch.
All right, Richard Marx. This is
Do you want this
Which-
pointed up like this?
which one of your hits was this? Which number? Which number hit was this?
Third.
Really?
Yeah, and this went all the way to number 2 with a hard-on bullet.
Right.
Like
And
a
never got
like
to
a
number
raging
one.
erection bullet.
What was number one?
Man in the Mirror, Michael Jackson.
Oh,
that
son of a
fucker.
gun.
Too soon?
No, not for me.
No, and it was a great record, but it was like we hung in there for like 3 or 4 weeks at number 2 right behind Man in the Mirror. We just couldn't unseat him.
Wow.
Yeah. This was the third single off my first record.
Man,
Yeah.
crazy.
This is worth mentioning that this song, in the form that it became a hit in, was rejected by every label in town.
That's so great.
Yeah.
You must be the only guy that's been able to make such a, like, you have 3 songs off of your first record, and they're all, well, I'm just saying up until this point, and all of those songs that preceded it weren't like 140 BPMs. They're like really just love songs and big ballady awesomeness, right?
No. You were
Well,
so poorly researched. No, I started at rock radio. Don't Mean Nothing was my first.
Really,
single.
it started at rock radio.
Yeah, because Joe Walsh played guitar on the record, and
Oh, he
Timothy
did.
Schmidt and Randy Meisner from the Eagles. It was almost like because the
That's
long
fucking
run,
incredible.
the long
man.
run was in 1980. Was
See,
the last
you can't
Eagles
read
record.
all that stuff. Like
No.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I was a huge Eagles fan, obviously, and I
And
wrote
they
this.
came and played on your record.
They came and played on Don't Mean Nothing, which really helped get it on the radio.
Right.
And then it just took off. So it was
Wow.
#1 at rock radio, and then it crossed over to pop. And then the album started to sell, and I was touring.
That's
and it was-
nuts.
and then the second single was another rock single called Should've Known Better, which was up-tempo. And then Endless Summer Nights was sort of mid-tempo. And then I didn't do the ballad thing until the fourth single, which was Hold On to the Nights,
Right.
which was my first #1.
Man,
And then the
huge.
record company went, oh, ballads. Let's
Right.
just keep putting out ballads. I know he's a rock singer, but
And
let's...
so really that and you listened. Or was it the only thing that when you wrote that was all that they would gravitate to?
No, I still had a couple more up-tempo hits, even a couple #1s. But I don't think... Look, the truth is, I mean, I think you guys are an exception. Your band is an exception. But if you look at... Historically, if you look at Journey, you look at Bryan Adams, you look at Kiss...
I don't know that we're the exception. I think of all of us in a similar way.
Well, I just think that, look, Journey certainly has some Don't Stop Believin' in Separate Ways. There's a really great up-tempo songs.
Right.
But when you think of Journey, you think of Faithfully and
Ballads,
you
right.
think of Open Arms. And Bryan Adams has got killer up-tempo songs, but you
Amazing.
think of Everything I Do and you think of Heaven and...
Because, well, I guess maybe I'm no exception. Like I know all your songs, but when I think of
Except the one we're going to sing.
you're very difficult to get along with. I do agree with Matt Nathanson on that.
Yeah.
But really, your ballads were so massive,
Yeah.
just like Bryan Adams, that those are the songs that my brain thinks about.
Yeah.
Because they were so big, just like Journey. Like, I don't think about Don't Stop Believin'.
Right.
I think about Faithfully,
Well, so what happens is, like, I'm doing a gig and I'll be like, and I'll start to go, don't mean nothing, the words that they say. And I'll see guys in the audience, like, all of a sudden they're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love that song. Well, they just totally forgot that was me.
Right.
So I get it. I totally get it. Because I do the same thing with bands. In the ballads, there is something about a big, massive, successful ballad that overshadows everything else. So
It
I
really
get
does. Even today, like you can have 3 big up-tempo songs and then you try to hit that fourth, that grand slam with the ballad.
Right.
And that's the one everybody
Drops
sings
of
for
Jupiter
20
is not
years.
really a ballad. It's more of a mid-tempo thing.
It's
But
pretty ballady compared to like other stuff. And so anyway, but it's that's interesting. I'll do better research for the next time I
fuck
podcast
yeah,
you.
please. Like there's going to be are we going to do it round 2, really?
And fuck no.
No.
No, this
I
is
know.
terrible.
I
I'm
know.
having
I
a
know.
terrible,
This-
miserable
this-
time being told how terrible I am.
Didn't go well.
Great. Let's do it. Richard Marx, you genius.
Summer came and left without a warning. All at once I looked and you were gone. And now you're looking back at me, searching for a way that we can be like we were before. Now I'm back to what I knew before you. Somehow the city doesn't look the same. I'd give my life for one more night of having you here to hold me tight. Oh, please take me there again. Oh, and I remember how you loved me. Time was all we had until the day we said goodbye. And I remember every moment of those endless summer nights. When I still recall the walks along the beaches, and the way your hair would glisten in the sun, rising in the afternoon and making love to you under the moon. every single breath you took was mine. We can have it all again. That you be with me when the sun brings your heart to mine. Oh, and I remember how you loved me. Time was all we had until the day we said goodbye. And I remember every moment of those endless summer nights. There's only so much I can say, so please don't run away from what we have together. It's only you and me tonight, so let's stay lost in flight. Won't you please surrender? Yeah, and I remember how you loved me. Time was all we had until the day we said goodbye. And I remember every moment of those endless summer nights. Yeah, of those endless summer nights. Yeah,
I've never sung with a man that I thought was a better singer than me. And I can still say that
Yeah, I
after
bet
that
you can.
one. Good for
Thank
me.
you.
Good for me. Man,
You
your
never
voice.
seem to amaze me.
Your voice. What did you say?
You never seem to amaze me.
You never seem to amaze me.
You've got more talent in your little finger than in your whole body.
Man, stop it, Richard
come
Marx.
on.
You're awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, so the things that I want to talk about are well, first of all, your voice is kind of fucking incredible. Dude.
Shut up.
You're such a great singer.
Hello,
man.
Pot.
It's
This is Kettle.
Listen to you sing, man. It's like my father-in-law Charlie is one of my favorite people in the world, and sometimes he'll just say the random nice thing to me, and he goes, "Man, that voice."
Dude,
And that's
seriously.
what it feels like when I was just listening to you sing. It was like, man, that voice, man.
All Mutual Admiration Society bullshit. I mean, you are a motherfucker singer, so
Well,
thank you.
That's really
appreciate
nice
it.
coming from you because you're the bomb. So anyway, I want to talk about Twitter because
Yeah.
I think that I know a lot of people in the music business. I love and admire many of them, and the people that I tend to admire more than others are the people that go with the flow. The flow meaning you can't be mad that you can't make the same impact today as you were able to yesterday.
Right.
And also, being a celebrity isn't as maybe glamorous and mysterious as it used to be.
True.
And you have to go with the flow. And also, I also admire the fact that you hang around with younger people. You
Yeah.
write with younger people. You try to have it rub off on you, your
Yeah.
kids, other people. I think that that's why you're still in the game, because you're willing to understand that you were a kid once and you were leading the way, and now these other kids are leading the way, and you better figure out how you can fit in.
These
and I think you're doing a
kids-
great job at it.
Thank you, man. Well, I appreciate that. Well, look, that's all true, but I'm thinking about people like Jason Wade from Lifehouse. I'm thinking about Chris Daughtry. I'm thinking about even people younger than that. Yes, I do. I'm aware that my past and my success and my pedigree, if you will, is something that they're like, yeah, I want to write with you because you've had this long history and you've.
Well, your melodies are insane. And
Thank you. But I get a tremendous amount out of writing with young artists because they're fearless, and
some of them are talentless, which really
some of
helps.
true. But when it
Man,
comes
I can
to
write this whole thing, and
when it-
you're not even gonna know
when
because you're
it-
dumb and you don't have talent. This is great for me. Okay, so anyway, I'm listening.
Oh God! But like in the case of well, Jason Wade's a great example. I met Jason through Chris Daughtry, and every Lifehouse CD has been on my iPod from day
that
one.
guy knows how to do it too.
He just knows how to do it, and I just love. He's another guy that could sing the phone book, and I'll listen. So getting a chance to write with him, the fact that he wanted to write with me, it was a real mutual benefit for both of us, and we became pals, and same with Chris. Chris is a really good songwriter.
Yeah,
and
both those guys are real decent kids.
yeah,
I like
really
them a
good
lot.
guys. So if you get to go and you write with people that you're a fan of,
Yeah.
and you end up having a great time, nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, right. Yes.
But yeah, Twitter. Back to Twitter.
Yeah, how many people have you met on Twitter? Because I know that you met Matt Nathanson through
Matt
Twitter.
Nathanson and I. I mean, we can't say that we're friends because we haven't spent enough time together. But I really like him, and we really we get along great.
Yeah.
But I know him through Twitter.
Yeah. How many other people do you know on Twitter?
More than I should. There
have
are people
you
that
ever met any girls on Twitter? Have you ever met?
Yes.
Have you ever met any girls that you ended up knowing better later from
Yes.
Twitter? Really?
Yeah, but that's. But
are you
it
on
didn't
any
start out that
dating
way.
sites? Do you do? I hear if you go to richardmarks.com,
It directs you
can get a
to.
date.
It directs you to
You can get a date if you send in like your
christianmingle.com.
What is what's the Tinder? Is that the one?
Tinder.
that's-
Tinder's the best.
Tinder. That's what I heard about. I
Yeah.
heard about Tinder today. No,
You're not doing that?
no, not yet. But what time is it?
I mean, I can show you how to use it.
I'm sure you can. You've got the app right there, right?
I got the app.
Yeah. No, it's really weird how Twitter, because I was so anti-Twitter for
Were you?
years. Yeah. I thought
Were
it was
you pissed off like when records stopped being sold and
only
it
mine.
became?
Only when mine stopped.
Isn't it funny?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how you're okay with Michael Jackson's records not selling?
I don't give a shit. That's just tough. But
I need money.
don't
I
fuck
got
with my
kids and
sales.
shit.
Exactly. No, my records are actually really good.
Right,
So they
right.
should keep, no. No, it's,
Were you? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the.
It's what we have to do.
It's the way to survive,
the
man.
new paradigm is not going to, it's like the toothpaste is not going back in the tube. It is, you either join and fight the new fight,
Right.
or you sit around and you, look, I have a number of acquaintances and friends who I love, but I can't hang with them because the conversation always shifts to the same thing, which is, can you believe that this is fucked and this is like, and I was like, guys, you can bitch about it all day long, or you can morph into what you need to morph into.
Yeah.
And some people just can't do that.
Well, I remember I was going through a divorce, and it ended, and it was not good for me, but it ended. And
All's
then-
well that ends, by the way.
Well, then a year later, it was like, oh wait, no, she forgot about something. She wants more,
Yeah.
and I was pretty upset about it. And so I
Financial. This is a financial thing. Yeah.
and I talked to my manager about it, and I was like, hey man,
Wait, there was a little piece of your soul that you had not coughed up at the,
yeah, there was a little bit of blood that I didn't cough up that she wanted to. But anyway, I talked to my manager about it, and I was like, hey man, I think I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna talk to the judge, and he was like, just remember one thing: nobody feels bad for a rich guy.
No.
And so that's why listening to people complain about,
Yeah.
these things that they're not getting anymore that they used to get. I don't know who's going to feel bad for you anymore.
No.
I mean, Perga was telling me that one of his favorite bands was Radiohead, and now all he hears about Tom York these days is being mad at Spotify. And I don't care who you are. Like, you could be in the coolest band in the world, like Radiohead, but once you start complaining about, I'm not getting enough money,
Right.
that's just, I don't think that's cool school behavior anymore.
It's almost like the concept of rebel millionaire.
Right.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, in my opinion, because I hear you loud and clear. It doesn't change the fact that if you and I made coffee tables like this was our business. You and I were friends, and we both were great carpenters. And we said, let's start a business where we make the most awesome coffee tables. And people loved our coffee tables. And every once in a while, if not regularly, people would come into our shop, and they would just look at the coffee table and go, okay, you take one end. And they would just pick up our coffee tables and walk out of the store and put them in their trucks and drive off without paying for them. We'd be like, wait a fucking minute. That's essentially what happened, years ago with Napster, and when illegal downloading became the cry of everybody is the reason for the demise of record sales. I don't think it was just that, because I think most people actually do still support artists, and it's just that I think it's a lot more simple than that, which is the competition for the public's attention has never been. There's nobody that's not ADD now. I don't remember. I still buy records. I'll get a new album on iTunes, and when I do finally sit and listen to it, I don't know about you, Pat, but I don't have that experience that I used to have, which was a solitary, concentrated experience of listening to a whole album from beginning to end without any distraction. Because I'm usually listening on my computer, and I'll get to track 3, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I need to tell my manager something, and I'll,
Right.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
But I'm not, and then I'm thinking, oh, well, who responded to that last tweet? And all of a sudden, I'm as ADD as
Right. Well, I have a
riddling
couple of
kid.
comments about all that stuff that you said. All of it is very full of rage and anger. No. What I want to say is, listening to records as a young person in your youth, those are the most important years.
Yeah.
They're your formidable years. That's when you're becoming who you are. You're being formed by this music. Like, I remember falling asleep to Breakfast in America when I was like 7. And like, I couldn't believe that they were able to get those sounds on anything. And so now I can't listen without being analytical. Like, I'm either trying to learn how that, what are they, oh, I get that. Oh, I need to think that way.
It's like when you go see a gig.
So it's more,
You know the man. You've
going
seen
to a
the man
gig
behind
is-
the curtain.
what's that? Oh, yeah. It's too, there's too much things, there's too much that I know. But here's what I think about the coffee table analogy that I really am going to slay right now. It's going to be like
Can't wait.
carnage. The difference that I think about the coffee table is this. You and I make the coffee table. But then Pergo, our record company, says, guys, I got this. I know how to sell coffee tables. You just go fucking make coffee tables. I got this. We made the coffee table for $1.
Yeah, I hear you.
Pergo's like, fuck, I can make $2,000 off this table. So he's been stealing from the public as a prick flying around in a helicopter because he's been selling our coffee tables. I'm so fucking mad at Pergo
Not only
right
that,
now with this story.
I'm not even. Not only am I
Then
not
finally they say, you know what? I'm stealing your tables. There you go, buddy.
Not only am I not going to argue with you, I'm gonna do you one better. Not only is he selling the coffee tables at a 2,000 markup, but a lot of the coffee tables we made along the way got shitty.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't. We didn't use a level. We stopped using a level. We didn't really. We're like, it looks kind of straight.
It's fine. We
It's
need to
fine.
make another one. Let's go.
It's fine. Look, the ends are rounded. It's
Yep.
nice. The stuff in the middle,
We have a
We don't
quota.
care.
It's true, man. And
okay.
so,
It's a hit.
yeah.
That's all true.
And so
That's all true.
That people have been. The
And now-
balancing act begins.
And now
it began
payback's
a long
bitch.
time ago.
Payback's a bitch.
And it was. And all those guys that were taking advantage of the customer or whoever the listener was, they're gone.
Yeah.
And the people that are left, some of them are real good, some of them are real important, and some of them are relics. Some of them should be gone, and I don't
Yeah.
know why they're not. But it's not my business because all I can do is keep my head down and do the work. Like,
all you
I
can do,
work a
Pat
lot.
Monahan, is stay awesome.
Well, I'm going to do the best I can, Richard. But I want to just ask you a couple more things before I let you go. I don't know what you do at midnight these days in West Hollywood. This is
We are
considered
West
right,
Hollywood.
but I'm sure you're going to do something awesome. You hear a lot of stories about people being mad at critics, but you kind of blast out at critics, and probably they deserve it, but. Do you think that criticizing critics does any good for an artist?
No, it just makes you feel better. In
It
the
does?
moment. In the
You
moment.
felt better?
Yeah. It was therapeutic for me. I stopped doing it. You know, we were talking about Billy Joel, and when I became friendly with him in the like 1990-ish, he was notorious for writing a critic or calling up a critic and blasting him. He did that many
really?
times. Yeah. And so he's 10, 12 years older than me. So when he and I became friendly, he sat me down at dinner one night and he says, listen, I've read a couple of things where you've called up a critic, and he goes, look, I was that guy, and I love that about you. It's one of the reasons we're friends. But let me tell you why you're going to stop doing that. He said, because I'm going to pass on my wisdom to you.
Yeah.
And he kind of hit me to that, and I really did stop doing that.
Huh.
But there were just I remember, I think the last time I actually picked up the phone was I did a concert somewhere like in Denver, or I think it was Red Rocks. We played Red Rocks or something. And we're on the bus out of town the next day, and somebody picked up the newspaper, and the guy just raked me over the coals, which is fine. But then he got to the point where he was ragging on this particular song that I never played.
Ah, that's great.
And I knew that he wasn't at the gig.
Ah, that's amazing.
So I called him.
You'll read that shit. And
I didn't read it, but it was read to me.
Okay.
And I went, whoa. We didn't fucking play that song last night.
Right.
So I need justice, God damn it.
Right.
So I call the guy up.
Justice.
I need him to say, I need this motherfucker to say to me,
I wasn't
I
there.
left early or I wasn't there. And I got him to admit that he stayed for like 45 minutes and he bailed. And I said, so you came in not a fan. Let me guess. He goes, no, I'm not a fan. I said, so you came in prejudging and I said, but which is fine if your review had said, I can't stand this guy. I only could stand 45 minutes. In the 45 minutes, here's my assessment. But you didn't. You lied. So now I need you, while I'm on the phone with you, I need you to do a little conference call. Can you get your editor on the phone? So I get the editor on the phone. I said, how much do you pay this guy to come out and review shows?
Wow.
And I said, because he didn't stay. He didn't do the gig you pay him to do.
Wow.
And the editor got really pissed at the guy. So I felt validated. I felt good. I felt like a justice in my one little,
Here's
moment.
another balancing act to me.
Okay.
Print. I mean, it's all but dead.
This was 20 years ago.
Oh, this is 20 years ago?
Yeah, this is 20
you're
years
a
ago.
genius.
Right?
You're the
Do you
greatest
think I give a
human
fuck
being
now?
alive.
Do you think
Yeah.
I even read that shit now?
Right.
Oh, the things people say on the internet and stuff like
Oh,
that
man.
now? Oh, God. If I was sensitive to that, I'd be dead.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm
No,
glad
this
that
is
you're
20
I'm
years
glad-
ago.
Okay, great. I thought that you were talking about
No,
like last
God,
week you
no.
did a gig. I was like, come on, man.
No. If a critic shows up at my gig, he can say whatever he wants as long as he spells my name right.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't that age? Like it's wisdom, right?
Yeah, of
You just
course.
reach a
I don't
certain
give a
point where
shit.
you just stop being mad at people.
I still get to be me. I'm lucky.
Right. Okay, so I got a couple of questions that my wife always likes to ask.
I can't wait.
we've kind of been through your life. Is there anything that I missed that you would like? You know what? I don't really care. So,
All right.
these are the important questions because if I don't ask them, I get in a lot of trouble.
Okay. Is the first one, what's that thing on your thing? Anyway, come on.
Shit. Okay, well then there's 5 questions.
Okay.
Because that one's best tour find. Because wait a minute, you go all over the world still?
Yeah.
All over. Like you just went to Jakarta, right?
Yep.
How much did you get paid for that gig? I don't remember you telling me. You told me. Okay, so your best tour find, like whether you go to Nashville or you're in Memphis for barbecue, or like a place that you found that is a gem that you could turn some listeners on to.
Okay.
Could be in Jakarta if you want.
Well, it depends on what you're into. In Jakarta. No, I'm just kidding. Let me think. I'm trying to remember the name of this place. There was a place in Milan that every time we played anywhere within a 2-hour drive of Milan,
You would go. Wow,
we would
that's
go,
great.
and they would stay open for us, 2 a.m, and they would just turn us loose. They would. This woman was just happened
And
to
it
be a
was
fan
food?
of mine. Yeah, it was food, but it wasn't just food. It was the greatest Italian food
Yeah.
ever.
I mean,
She was
Italy.
the owner. This was a little place. She was the owner, but she cooked everything.
What is your ethnic background?
German. So there's no culinary.
So were you related to Carl?
No,
Okay.
nor Groucho, nor Zeppo.
Right.
So yeah, there was that for years, and I can't remember the name of it, and I haven't been there in a while.
Well, you don't remember the place, what the name is? How about an American, some place that you found that you still have to go to because it's important, or even like a running trail or a gym or something that's that you think is cool?
Okay,
Or your favorite
There's
hotel?
something new. Here's something new.
Great.
I just started hiking because I wasn't really into hike, but now that I'm back in LA,
Yeah.
somebody that I've been hanging out with likes to hike, so we've been hiking a little bit. And there's a place in Malibu called Solstice that's a hiking trail.
Solstice.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
pretty awesome.
And is it easy to find?
It's easy to find. It's down PCH. It's kind
Great.
of more close to Point Doom, maybe a little past Point Doom.
Cool.
It's awesome.
All right.
Solstice. Go if you like to hike and you like to be outside in the sun and kind of feel in touch with nature and all that shit.
And bobcats, like nature and
Depends
bobcats.
on what time you go.
What are you a fan of currently? You said you don't really watch sports anymore because you think most athletes are kind of full of their own shit. What are you a fan of? Is there a certain new music or a certain wine or some kind of software that you use? Like, what are you a fan of currently?
I'm a huge fan of Uber.
Me too,
Big
man.
time.
It's so great.
I think
right?
Uber's the greatest thing ever.
It might be.
Because I was never,
San Francisco, bro.
I was never really much of a drinker. I think we talked about this prior. And then in the last 6 months, I've uncovered a
Uber
new...
has. What did you say? Pergo has a theory that once we have cars that can drive themselves, the alcohol rate in the
my
United
God.
States is going to sky because
Yeah.
it'd just be like, my car.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my theory is that my liver's had it way too good for too long.
Me too, bro.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
I
this
didn't
is,
get
you
it.
and I are
I
living
would
in
have
this-
like a nice glass of wine or two a couple times a week at the most.
right.
But I would, and when I was young, when I was first touring,
You're almost trying to hurt yourself at this point, aren't you?
I am. I'm trying really hard to just obliterate myself. Yeah, I figure it's time.
Right.
But I've also been educated recently about better alcohol.
Oh,
so
good.
A more top shelf, if you will.
And it is a really fascinating
It is.
thing to
It's-
discover.
well-
Like for me, I'm learning about wine because it's the only thing I drink.
Okay.
But then, if you smoke pot, which I don't talk about, but the different varieties and the fact that it's like, I mean, you can't smoke pot like you used to when we were kids.
Right.
If you smoked a joint, you'd either go to the hospital directly or you would fall into some corner of your friend's basement.
Back then?
Like, no, now.
Now. Okay.
Because if you smoked a joint, back in the 80s, half of it was just some weed from somebody's backyard.
Right,
anyway.
literally a
It was like,
weed.
dude, Maui Wowie. And
Yeah.
it was pretty much Bob's, backyard barbecue
Right.
bullshit. But now it's like it's all made in heaven.
Yeah.
and they bring it down and the God and the angels bring it to you and they go like, don't smoke too much.
Yeah. Well, I feel that way about Don Julio tequila.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Once I got hip to, especially Añejo, Don Julio, it's a little piece of heaven for me.
So that's kind of what you're a fan of right now is killing yourself with
Tequila.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
I
mean, I like a nice Belvedere martini,
nice.
but I'm a real tequila guy. That's
Oh,
my
good.
thing.
I used to love tequila.
Yeah. What changed?
Oh, I didn't drink for 17 years because I was very unsuccessful. While you were, just making ridiculous amounts of money and being mad at Prince and Michael Jackson for being on the charts next to you, I was schlepping paint buckets and just being lucky to survive.
And so you didn't drink during that time?
So I stopped drinking, and I decided to try.
Because you were already angry
try
enough.
to be a good parent. I really was. I was mad at you, really.
Yeah.
And anyone else who was.
I'm glad you've forgiven me.
Well, I haven't, but I was mad at anyone who was successful, And like now, I'm not mad at anybody. And when I drink wine, I'm like, I want to buy you stuff.
Right. I'm a good drunk too.
I just don't have anything to be mad about.
Yeah, that's good. What else
Okay,
you got?
so you're a fan of tequila. What is the brand again?
Killing myself with alcohol. Don Julio, 1942.
Don Julio, 1942. Great. Music. We kind of discussed it already, but why do you still do this, dude? You don't have to. I mean,
Oh, I do.
so you have to.
I
Like,
don't
just
have
for
to
your-
financially. I have to for my
but you have
soul.
to, right?
I feel like
How come you don't go to Hawaii and just like
I do.
go? Oh, you do?
well, not Hawaii, but I'm treating myself a little better.
Okay,
you know,
good.
with the Cabo not too long ago, just for no reason.
Did you go with Sammy Hagar? He's my friend.
No, didn't go. But we saw him together recently, you and me.
Yeah.
And he gave me a bottle of his rum.
And was it good?
It's really good. I went and bought a bottle, and I
that's
took a
great.
picture of me holding the bottle and sent it to him.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's really good. I love him.
He's a great
He's
dude,
a
man.
sweetheart.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like Sammy Hagar?
Whoever
Anybody
doesn't
that doesn't
like Sammy
can go
Hagar
fuck
should get a
themselves.
wedgie.
Yes, at least.
Well,
a wedgie that causes them anal warts.
so what would you? That's. So what would you do if this was up? What would you do to fill your time?
I'd still write songs. I'd still
Yeah.
make up shit. There's nothing more fun, right? Is there
don't-
anything more fun than making up songs?
I don't know, man. I'm having a very difficult, miserable time at it right now.
Oh, yeah?
It's not as much fun. I have a lot of pressure on myself.
Well,
know?
you do. You have a different level of pressure because you had a massive success, and then you had a little lull, and then when you came back, it was so unexpectedly big
Yeah.
that's got to be a mind
and
fuck
it's,
in itself.
you know, it's like I can either, and it's not like I'm trying to.
Why
write
don't you just let
songs.
me write the songs for you?
Well, I'm going to come over and we're going to write songs. But like I said before, I want you to be a closer.
yes.
You know, like having it is a lot like sports to me, like making a record. You know, you have to.
Well, in all seriousness, I think what you suggested is exactly how I like to come into projects.
Yeah, because then you get to hear like, here's where I am. You know, what do you think we need?
And
then you'd
I,
be
as a
like-
fan, I
and
can
then
sit
you'd
there
be
and go, you know,
and then you just change the words a little bit.
yeah, that's what I plan to do.
And then you sue yourself later so that you double dip because you're in the music business and that's what we do.
Absolutely. In fact, I already had an idea for you, which goes, oh, it doesn't mean anything. Dun, 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 dun. Just a little,
Yeah,
more
No, then you sue
grammatically
yourself
correct.
later. It's great.
Yeah.
What is you must have had 1,000. I mean, you told us about 9 of them during the interview. 7 of them weren't really. They didn't make an impression on me, but 2 of them I liked. I'm just kidding. You've had so many standout moments. Is there one? I can't even say one, but is there one lately? That's what I should say.
Berlin Wall. Were you there when Berlin Wall came?
Yeah. We played in Berlin.
Wall. I mean, was playing it? Were you playing when they were taking it down?
Yeah, we got pieces of the wall.
And so was that the moment in your life, or was, you know?
No.
Is
It's
there
easy, it's
one?
an easy answer.
Really?
It's sappy, but it's easy. I got to. You probably did the same thing. I'm not going to assume, but did you have an actual or at least a mental checklist when you were younger of things that you wanted to achieve as a musician?
No, it didn't come till later. Like I think I was like 30 when I started to say I'd love to sell out Madison Square Garden.
Right.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I had that list when I was young, and by the time I was 25 or 26, I had checked it all off.
Wow.
And I was really grateful for that. It wasn't like, look at that shit I checked. It was like, I can't fucking believe that I checked this shit off.
Incredible.
you know?
Yeah.
When I was 31, I was doing this tour, and for the first time I used full orchestra on 3 shows: Boston, Atlanta, and Chicago. And so I needed charts. I needed arrangements of my songs. So I went to the best arranger I could think of, my father.
Wow. That's so cool.
So this is 4 years before he died.
Oh.
Now, my dad died suddenly, not of an illness or something. It was a result of a car accident. So it was like that.
Oh shit.
And we were thick as
Sorry.
thieves. We were best friends, right? But I just worshipped him as a musician as well. So he wrote these amazing arrangements for all my songs. So he went with me and he conducted in Atlanta with the
So
Atlanta
he
Symphony.
wrote like your string parts.
He wrote the strings and horns.
That's so
He did
cool.
on a lot of my records as well.
Oh, that's great.
So we did the first gig in Atlanta with the Atlanta Symphony. Then we went to Boston and played with the Boston Philharmonic. And then we ended up playing this one more
And was your
symphony
dad
show.
there?
He conducted.
He conducted.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And I remember I loved, well, I'll actually save this for the end of the story because it'll lighten it up. But we ended up playing the last one in Chicago at the venue that I grew up going to concerts at, which was this place called Poplar Creek, which was the Shed, the outdoor amphitheater. And we had the symphony and my dad
Is that
conducting.
the World? Did that turn into the World?
No, it's similar. It's very
Okay.
similar. Same exact size, everything, just a different town.
It's a big ass place. Man.
Yeah, and it was sold out, and it was incredible.
That's
and
amazing.
We're getting ready to go on stage, and we've already done 2 of these shows, my dad and I. But there was a perfect storm. It was this is where I grew up going to concerts. My dad's going to walk out there with me and conduct this orchestra at this sold out gig. And right as the house lights were about to come down, my dad and I were standing in the wings, and we just looked at each other. Not a word was said, but the look between us was the greatest moment of my life.
Oh man, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, look, I had 3 kids, so these are great moments. But in terms of like making music and a career moment, that nothing compares to that.
Right.
So his real name was Richard Henry Marx, but he went by Dick back when people were named Dick.
Sure. Of course.
You don't hear a lot of guys named Dick anymore. But from the time I was little, I made a conscious decision that I would stay Richard, because I knew that my dad was kind of well known in Chicago. People knew who he was. He was on TV here and there and stuff. And so when I would introduce him on these shows, I would tell the story, Dick Marx, everybody, and everybody would go crazy because he was a really charismatic guy. And then I would tell the story, and I'd say, I always made sure that I would stick with Richard because my dad was well known enough that I knew that he would always be known as Big Dick, and we know what that would make me. So
Right.
I stuck to Richard
Yeah.
because nobody wants that.
Well, guess what? Pat Monahan's going to be calling you from now on.
Little Dick.
So I got just 2 more questions.
I can't wait.
One is, what's next? What are you doing next? What are all your next plans other than writing songs and touring? Is there something immediate happening that the world should know about?
There's so many wise ass answers. I'm finishing an album right now.
Cool.
That
You're
I
gonna
think
have a new album soon.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometime probably in late spring.
Did you
early
produce
summer.
it yourself?
I did, and it's my favorite thing I've done in a long time.
Oh, that's good.
Just my taste, and it's been really fun.
Is it harder or easier to write songs now that you're not in a marriage that you were in for so long? Is it
It's
easier?
Yeah, it's easy. It's been easier.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no editing. And it's all
Right.
new experiences to draw from.
Right.
So the muse is different, So there's that. It's also just musically more consistent than a lot of my other records. So I'm really excited about the music that I'm making for myself right now, that I'm about to put out for all 11 people who will potentially buy the record.
Make it 12.
Okay, cool.
Because
brother.
Pergo's going to get one.
Cool.
Well, that's cool. I mean,
And then I'm doing this.
That's great.
And I'm doing a project which I just don't want to flesh it out too much because it's such a great idea that I don't want anybody else to sort of take it. But I'm doing a project with a friend of mine who's a screenwriter named Randall Wallace. He wrote Braveheart.
Wow.
And he wrote We Were Soldiers and directed that movie. And
That's
he's
amazing.
a writer, director.
I know a guy who was in that movie.
Who?
Mark Blucas. He was in We
You
Were
just made that
Soldiers.
name up just now. I
No.
think you just made it
No,
up.
Mark
I think you were
Blucas.
like, oh shit, I said it, yeah, but I don't know his name. So Mark Blucas.
Glenn Fry. Glenn
Mark
Close.
Lucas.
John Dunbar.
His name is Luke. His name is probably Lucas something, and you were like Mark.
His name's Mark Lucas,
Lucas.
bro. He's really good. Blucas. Sorry, Jesus Christ. Yeah, he was in that movie.
We Were Soldiers.
Yep.
Yeah. So Randy, and I are doing a project together that is a combination of music and literature that I'm really excited about. We've been working on for a while. And then I've just been, I'm producing this girl in Nashville named Jillian Jacqueline, which sounds made up, but it's not. And she's maybe the most talented artist I've run across in a long time. She's young. She's 25, singer-songwriter and kind of modern country. So I I've been producing tracks to get her hopefully signed and launch her career. Because that's one thing on my resume.
Are
Pat
you
Monahan.
making a record with her so that she'll go on a date with you?
No,
Well, that's cool. So
she
you're
would never
making a
date
record
me.
with her. You're about to put your own record out.
Yeah.
Are you going to do like a big tour to support your album?
I'm going to do a tour of venues that would like me to play their venue.
Great.
If that's a big tour. I'm doing a big tour in Asia in May, but here
That's
in the
good.
States, we're going to
I'd love to see you live. I'm looking forward to
You
it.
just
I'm
did.
gonna come in because you sing your tits off.
Thank
dude.
you.
So I forgot to ask you this. Is there a yes that you think you wish you wouldn't have said, or a no that you wish you wouldn't have said along your career
Oh, that's a really good question.
that maybe altered or could have altered the course of your life?
Yeah, that's
What
a
was it?
badass question. Let's start with the yes. The yes was to the label EMI for years. Yes, pick whatever singles you want. Because at the time, I really did feel like every song, we were talking about the reference to the coffee table and some of the music gets shitty from the artists, blah, 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 blah. I never made an album where I didn't try to make every track a single-worthy song and as good as it could possibly
Sure.
be. So I had this attitude, which was I would give them their 11 or 12 songs, and I would say to them, I don't care what you want the singles to be, because I'm proud of every song, so do whatever you want.
I feel the same way, yeah.
The problem was that they didn't look at it from the standpoint of how are we going to really advance this man's career
Right.
and paint a really interesting story. It's like, what's going to be the easiest thing for us to sell? And so they shortchanged me by just putting out, they were like, oh yeah, well, these chicks love his ballads because he's,
Right.
And so I got shortchanged in that way, and I didn't
Wow.
assert myself at that time.
I can totally get that. Yeah, that makes sense.
The no was more like, look, I can't be sure of this. I had a meeting with Mutt Lange in London at the end of I guess it was like going into my third album. He came to see me play, and he was really complimentary, and I still worship Mutt Lange. And we had a really nice chat and a hang. And I don't know that he would have produced my next album, but I didn't even pursue the next conversation because I loved producing my own records so much that I was like, I don't care who it is, I love producing. And I love producing other people. And I think that had I, instead of that, gone to somebody like Mutt and said, look, I've had all this success for the last couple albums, I want to do something, I want to take it to the next level. So I need somebody. I was insecure enough that I didn't want to give up any of the reins. And I look back now and I think if I had gone to somebody like Mutt, would he have, even though I still had a couple more albums that were huge, I think that I plateaued creatively at a certain point in terms of production for myself. I became a much better producer for other people years later. But it's hard to produce your own records. You know? So I think when I look back now,
It's
I go, I should have.
I feel like it's like being your own manager.
Yeah.
Like you need help. You need somebody to say, hey man, you have to trust me to know that this isn't done yet. Or whatever the thing would be, because do you have a good manager? Do you have somebody that you care about?
I do now. Yeah.
who
Who
has
I
cared about
trust.
you?
And yeah, absolutely. I really love the guy.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean, and just the experience of working with somebody like that, just what I would have learned from that process. So I wish I had been more open to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I also wish that when Ben Stiller asked me to be in his TV show in like 1990 or 91, I was like,
Wait, what was
Ben Stiller show?
the TV show?
It was it was the Ben Stiller show.
Oh.
And it was like, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm way too cool for that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I blew it off. He wanted to do this skit. And it was before we musicians made fun of ourselves that way. We still took ourselves kind of seriously.
It's
I
really
did.
funny. I'm so glad that you understand the growth.
Oh my God.
Like, there's-
now I would have rocked that shit.
But I mean, you're so like, You're so kind of together in what's going on.
Oh,
And
dude,
you
I'm
say
so
that-
fucked up. You have no idea.
No, but you have to.
I'm a
no,
fucking
no, I
mess.
don't. No, I don't think you're together.
I've seen how much you've been drinking tonight. You're not
only
together.
in the course of your viewpoint of life is really, really centered and realistic, and I really think that I have a lot of respect for it. Do you think that your children have a lot to do with that? Like,
Yeah.
being a dad, first of all, you can't get away with being a snobby prick because they're just going to be like, dude, you can be whoever you want out there, but I know who you are and you ain't shit. But your kids must help you focus on being able to continue down the road with either A, not being too frustrated about it, and trying to do it with a smile. I mean, you're making friends still. It's you're easy to be around. This was a really fun time for me. I really appreciate
Thanks,
you
man.
doing
Me too.
this. I
Me
think
too.
you're a big badass star, man. This is cool that we got a chance to be here with you.
Thank you. Well, the answer to that question, I appreciate you saying that, and I had a great time too. What I'm finding now at 50 and having raised my kids who are 20, 21, and 23 is the payback is what I'm getting from my sons. You know, I have the Marx brothers. I have 3 sons. The soulfulness and the youthful wisdom, the encouragement, the understanding, the compassion that I'm getting from my sons right now, that I guess is the payback for being a good dad all those years, is like tenfold. What I'm getting back now from my kids as friends, as grown men who are my friends now, I never saw it coming. It's just,
that's
it's
cool.
humbling.
Well, you provided your father with a friendship too. That's really cool. It's
And I'm
coming
getting the
back to
same
you.
thing. It's really amazing.
So how do people get in touch with you? How do they...
My address is 1868. Just come over. Just come over.
It really is 1868. What? How would people? How would
It is
people get in touch
1868.
with you who wanted to reach out to you or write to you or find out where you're headed or what pictures you're taking or do you have an Instagram?
I'm on Instagram.
Do you follow the Fat Jewish?
I don't. Should
He's
I?
very funny.
I follow Puppy Palace.
I don't. That doesn't sound good.
It's good.
No,
it's
the Fat
actual
Jewish
puppies.
is very funny.
Fat Jewish. I follow the Tweet of God on Twitter.
The who?
The Tweet of God, which is just
Oh.
God.
Oh, I don't know that.
It's you have to. Oh, Pat.
Instagram God?
No. It's Twitter.
Oh, it's Twitter.
It's Twitter. He's massive.
at
And
God.
no, at the Tweet of God. And he only follows one person, Justin Bieber, which is kind of genius.
Oh, that's amazing.
No, I don't know about what is it? The Fat Jew?
The Fat Jewish.
The Fat Jewish.
He's very funny. But anyway, so you're at Richard Marx on Instagram.
Instagram is the Richard Marx because some asshole took my name.
It so sucks.
So it's
man.
the Richard Marx at Instagram and just at Richard Marx on Twitter.
Okay. Anything else you want to say? I hope not.
No. I'm done. I'm so done.
Hey man, thanks so much.
You
dude.
too, buddy.
It's great.
And it was
having
so
you.
fun singing with you. I was really honored, seriously.
Yeah, you're a singing somj. All right,
Thanks.
that was Richard Marx, everybody. I'll try to do better next time I get him in a room.
Hell yeah.
All right, thanks.
That
man.
was fun. Who knew?
All right. If you want to get a hold of Richard Marx, he loves Twitter. Just go to Twitter and punch in Richard Marx. He will show up at your door. Like, that's the way this guy works. So that's the best way to contact him. If you want to get a hold of us, go to Patcast Podcast at Instagram or Twitter. Or you can go to patcast.com, or you can go to iTunes and go to the podcast area and find Patcast. If you're already listening to this, you probably don't need to hear all this rigmarole. But anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Patcast. Want to do a sign-off, Autumn?
Hi, I'm Autumn. Thanks for listening to the podcast.